Thank you so much for tuning in. We are a coalition of ceasefire candidates. We believe it isn't about the party, but the person and the values they stand for. We are a mix of independent, progressive Dems, and Green Party candidates. We are the only ceasefire candidates who can actually stand up for Palestine in excuse me, in office, and we are going to be the only ethical candidates on the ballot in 2024. Now, before we go into a whole bunch of things, Bo, he is going against Gottheimer, right?
Gottheimer.
AKA Gott Slimer, um, in New Jersey. I forgot what district.
5.
District 5, and there is a national call to get rid of Gott Slimer. But I do want to talk about two big things that happened in New Jersey and give an update. We still are collecting donations. We haven't hit our mark. But on Monday, I went to a protest. I got a little injured. The link is in the bio. And at the protest, we were protesting to stop Zach Elias. And on Sunday, there was a protest. There were a couple more protests to stop the illegal land sales of Palestine. And on Monday, it was really a very hectic situation. It was and I shared some pictures on it. The protesters were surrounded. The police allowed the protesters to be surrounded and placed in a very hostile and dangerous environment by the anti-Palestinian, the pro-Netanyahu side, and it was very heightened. But it was also weird because I don't know if, and I brought some in the one article I posted. Now I gotta go find it. It appeared that some people, and I go into more detail, it appeared some people were actually forced to attend the anti-Palestinian side. I think, and I'm starting to wonder now if there are consequences if they say no, they can't attend, because there were a lot of parents with very young kids there, and it was very late that the kids should have been in bed, and the parents did not look happy. They weren't really engaged, and a lot of people looked like they were forced to be there with or without kids. There was somebody there that was that said, "Oh, this is like a block party," which made me question: do they understand the gravity of the situation, or do they understand what's actually happening in this moment? Or because there are so many people that don't pay attention to the news, some people thought like this was just, or maybe they're just really just out there. They have no concept of reality. Maybe they really thought this was a block party because, you know, to them it probably was. But I don't know. So it had me start questioning a lot of things. There were some people there that were carrying batons and the police did not tell them to put it away, and some people wanted it to become violent. And I did get hurt, but I accidentally hurt myself. No one actually hurt me there, and I'm still recovering. But that's neither here nor there.
Well, and it is interesting to note that a lot of the large police departments in America are trained by the IDF. They fly
Yes.
over there for training. They import training. So to say that there aren't departments that deliberately are hard on Palestinian protesters, that don't deliberately set up situations so that they can be violent, I think would be a stretch. They've literally been trained to infiltrate, to instigate. That's part of the game. And when the people that trained you are now at war, they tend to side with them. Right or wrong,
Yes.
they've just had decades and decades and decades of infiltration. It's now part of the culture. You know,
Yes.
right next to the American flag, they salute the Israeli flag as if that's normal. If you're
Yes.
Israeli, that's normal, right? There's nothing wrong with saluting your flag, but this is America, a completely different country.
Mm-hmm.
There's no need for your police departments to swear allegiance to a foreign nation because they work as a cop in New York.
Yep. And then some of the some comments, which is also in the articles, and you're speaking about police. Police allowed the pro-Israel group to intimidate instead of keeping them on the opposite side. They allowed them to surround the pro-accountability, pro-humanity, pro-Palestinian protesters. Someone even quoted, "It was caging in just like Israel did to Gaza. They felt caged in." And I'll send pictures again. If you check the link, it will show one picture. But I actually went around to connect the full circle of the it was hundreds of people surrounding these protesters, and they were squished in. And the one thing I have to give, which was like so incredible, it was the pro-Palestinian protesters. So it was Arab men and Hasidic male Jewish men that were for Palestine. They made a circle around the women and everyone, the way I saw it, so they could protest, but they were the front line. So if anything happened, the men would get hit first. So it was very inspiring and very powerful just to see that unity of the different backgrounds, that it is humanity against what's going on currently, the anti-humanity. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the G word on YouTube, but it was definitely a powerful fight.
It's up in the air right now, and I know we're gonna be after our show is done today, we're actually gonna shoot over to TikTok and do some Q&A over there over the same subject. But we're really hampered in some of the words that we can say. Yes. If you notice in our speech, we've started speaking in code, very like jazz musicians did, right, in the 1940s. In that when you listen to it, you're like, oh, it's a song about playing in the flowers in the sunshine, and it's an organizing protest song. It went way over your head. We had to start doing that exact same thing. We can't say the G word. Whether we can or can't say it on YouTube, Facebook, kind of hard to tell at this point. Yeah. It seems random in who they target for censorship, especially the Palestine issue. It's an uphill battle, but it is kind of interesting to see how ineffective it is. If they say, okay, you can't use, you can't say watermelon anymore, right? Then we immediately switch to something else, right? Without even skipping a beat. And now they've spent $1 million to censor anything that's got watermelons on it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, like it doesn't, like that kind of movement, and it happens the next day. We just pick a new slang.
Mm-hmm. And we're really quick with coming up with new words.
I know you wanted to get your opening in as well. I wanted to give Bo a second to kind of introduce himself. He's the other candidate. Just for our listeners, I am not running for office.
Yes, Bo is running with me.
You're the smart one.
Conversation.
Yes, Bo is with me in New Jersey. He's running against Scott Slimer, and there's a national call to remove him.
So yes, my name is Bo Forte. I am running for Congress in the 5th District of New Jersey against Josh Gottheimer. A few reasons that I'm doing it. I do have a personal history with him. That's probably the story that's going to get most of the headlines, the fact that he personally tried to have me prosecuted for harassment. I would never recommend this in a criminal case, but it was so frivolous. I didn't even attain a lawyer to fight this. Long story short, after a year of 6 hearings, the mayor of Oakland, who was a big Democrat, acted as prosecutor until I yelled about it so much that she removed herself. But, it was a hit job. And in the end, it was dismissed with prejudice. We didn't even really need to go to trial. It was just a lot of wasted time and money. I'll get into that story as the campaign rolls on, as much as people want to know it. And then also, Josh Gottheimer is a 4th-term Democrat in this district and is vehemently opposed to universal health care. So I feel like universal health care, especially now, has to be on the ballot every election. The latest stat that I saw is about 1,000 people every day, 1,000 Americans every day go bankrupt solely due to their medical bills, to their personal medical bills. That's got to stop. And like I said, if the Republican and the Democrat on the ballot aren't going to fight for that, someone needs to.
Yep. And
it's something I wish that we hear that, all the crap that most America, that they have no real drive to do anything about, they'll tell you that's on the ballot. Democracy's on the ballot. This is on the ballot. That's on the ballot. Right. But it's none of the things we care about. Medicare for all needs to be on the ballot. Yep. Right. 75% of Americans think that we should have Medicare for all. And if you say just children and the elderly and people with disabilities, right, that number jumps way up into the 90 percentiles. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's just it's insane that we have been fighting for the Medicare for all issue for decades now. Nancy Pelosi ran under universal health care in her first in her first election to the Senate. And now 40 years later, it still went nowhere.
Yep. She
That's how
blocked it.
powerful. That's how powerful the health insurance lobby is.
Well, she blocked it because she didn't have a backbone and she gave in to money.
Oh, and she's invested heavily in the pharmaceutical industries. Let's make no.
Yeah.
But let's also give credit where it's due. The gentleman, and I don't like to speak ill of the recently deceased, but Joe Lieberman was, a huge roadblock to attaining universal health care. The few times that we came close to getting it, Joe Lieberman behind the scenes was the guy who was,
well, but that's his legacy.
Yeah.
Like how many people did he kill?
Well, the reason I bring him up is because Josh Gottheimer is a disciple of Joe Lieberman. Joe has come down here to campaign for Josh, and they're two of the same.
Yeah.
And we've had the same problem. California has now brought universal health care up to vote twice, and it's been vetoed by the government. Like the people had to those special votes or whatever where they have they can bring it up, and they voted down twice, vetoed it twice. They've passed it.
Mm-hmm.
People want it.
Yes.
There's I know the today's show is normally about Palestine, but there's 4 or 5 issues that the average American agree on, right? Universal health care, right? Getting rid of lead pipes, clean water. Most people would love to see Monsanto products banned, right? That's pretty much across the board. Legalization, right? And again, if you just say straight legalization, you'll get about 70%, 75% of Americans would like to see it legalized and the mass incarceration. But if you say for people with cancer, people with PTSD, it jumps again way up into 80%.
Yeah.
The things that people should be running on, we're not even having those conversations. It seems like our politicians are not. It's why I like you guys so much. It's why I like grassroots candidates so much, because they never come out with the list of bullcrap that the duopoly candidates do. For democracy was on the ballot. What does that even mean?
Yeah, it's scare tactic. When you need to get votes by scaring people, you're not the guy.
And I think we talked about this last week. It's moved into almost completely scare tactics. If you ask, them what there's almost nothing they're fighting for. They'll give you the list of bad things that they feel are going to happen to you, right? If Trump's elected, if this happens, if that happens, or Russia's going to take over the world, Iran and North Korea are going to invade Texas, whatever insanity they're on about, right? But it's never the things that they're going to put in to make the world a better place. They'll say those about 3 weeks before election time.
Right. It's unfortunate. I mean, in a lot of respect, the voters let them get away with that, but a lot of the blame falls on our media and the politicians themselves, the lobbyists. I mean, it's a mess. It's a mess. And the more I get into this, the more I realize it. So, not to stray off the topic, but it is a personal issue for me too. I'm not just someone saying, "Oh, we need it because we need it," or because my father passed away in October. I was his medical proxy and his power of attorney for many years. And, I had a front row seat to what a mess this healthcare system is. And, denials and the money it costs and, the stresses that are put on a person who's just trying to survive. And now they have to worry about, well, if I survive, am I going to be broke? It's a nightmare. It's a real nightmare. So.
And we're the only place that does it like this.
Right.
I've traveled roughly to 110 countries, depending on who you ask. Some of them don't exist anymore. Some of them aren't officially recognized. But, right, and we are the only country that does it like this. This is the only place where I've came out of a hospital and been like, oh, my God, right? Like, what did I spend? My son had to get one of his teeth removed. Now, he's 18. He works construction, right, has insurance, had to get, a molar removed. $3,000.
Wow.
Right? For an 18-year-old kid.
That's obscene. That's criminal.
And in comparison, I had a tooth removed in New Zealand, right? It was causing me all sorts of problems. I didn't go in because I assumed it was going to cost me an arm and a leg, right? For the entire thing, it was $200, including the medication, right? And I had to have you ever seen somebody react where they're out?
Oh, you froze.
And he's gone.
I'm way out in the sticks. Have you ever seen somebody react like out of place for their country, where it's just culturally weird, where you give somebody the instead of charging them to 50 cents, you give them the drink for free, and they're like, oh my God, thank you. I've never had anybody, so it's the biggest thing that's ever happened to them. I was that guy. I come in and I'm kind of, I'm already, my teeth hurts, right? And they say, oh, it'll be, and it was 200 New Zealand dollars. It's like 150 US.
And you don't even pay into their system.
Yeah, not at all. I'm just traveling. I was just on a working visa.
Right.
Like I wasn't even immigrating there. And, I'm shaking people's hand and they're giving me this look like, what is this guy's problem? Right? Because back home, right, I may have had to take out a loan to cover this.
Sure.
Even in Vietnam was the same way. There you had the choice of two systems. You could go the Chinese medicine system, or you could go to the Western medicine. Like you had the choice between the two. I don't know, explain Chinese medicine. Basically the exact same thing, except they give you like more the same drugs, but in teas and herbs. If that makes any sense?
It does.
So if you were going to get aspirin for pain, right, then they would make you a tea out of the aspirin tree bark, like you skip the pharmaceutical part of it. But again, completely free.
Yeah.
And not
that's a very
like,
poor country that can swing it.
I just walked. Yeah, I've never been to a country where you come out of, you're sick. You're already like, you're down on your luck. Things are not going your way, right? You're sick. You've been hurt, you whatever. And you come out worse off than you were when you went in. Right, like, well, now I guess I don't have quite the toothache anymore, but there's no way I'm going to be able to live indoors next month.
Totally. Listen, again, I don't mean to stray off the topic, but being you brought up New Zealand, I just want to throw in a funny little story. Before I decided to run, I was a regional sales rep for an independent agency, and we represented some big companies out there. And we represented some small ones. And one of the smaller ones we represented was a company out in New Zealand that was manufacturing here in the States too, and trying to open themselves up to the US market. So we took this guy out to dinner one night in Long Island. He was the owner of the company. And I hadn't met him yet, didn't know anything about him other than the fact that he was from New Zealand. Now, the two owners of my agency were pretty conservative guys, business owners, salesmen. And just on a whim, as we were all sitting at the bar and having a drink, I said to Lori, because me and the bosses used to argue about healthcare all the time. And I said to him, I shouldn't have said his name. I said, hey, do me a favor. Just tell me what you think of universal healthcare in New Zealand. Because he could have come back to me and said, it's terrible. I have a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. And all he did was he took a sip of his beer and he looked at me and the boss. He goes, it's the dream.
It's the dream, mate.
I mean, he couldn't have given me a more perfect answer, and I didn't know what he was going to say, but he delivered. And you talk to anybody.
When you're there, whether you're traveling, whatever, you get a primary care. If you got sick, you call them up, tell them I'm sick. They figure it out by where you are living, at that moment, and you go in and get seen. Part of it is a cultural thing. New Zealand is a completely different culture from Australia, from Britain, from other Western cultures and how they see the world. Some of that has to do with the people that immigrated there and why they immigrated there. Their women were the first to get the right to vote, which was part of the deal of them coming there. As like you guys know, Australia was originally populated a penal colony. They had led a lot of, people. Now, some of them were arrested for stealing bread, right? A lot of the crimes you were arrested for, we wouldn't count as that would get you sent to a penal colony now. But compared to New Zealand, that was almost 100% farmers, right? And there was a land deal. They wanted families and all of that to come. So like why and the culture that they brought with them is so much more like community oriented than anywhere I've seen anywhere else. And that also has to do with like integrating the indigenous and Maori cultures as well. It's just created a completely different culture. I love living in New Zealand. You have no idea. But not to get too far away, it's that they keep on telling us that Medicare for all, that socialized healthcare, that single payer is impossible. when we are literally the last place to not get it. And even when we count, like, of the 3 countries that don't, most countries have socialized healthcare, right? Mm-hmm. And even when they count the 4 or 5 countries that don't, 3 of them are kingdoms, and no, they don't technically have single payer. The king just pays for all of it, like Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia doesn't technically have single payer, but the king pays for all the healthcare in the country, so it is. Right. And that's where we're down to. You have to stand on one foot to even make it match up. Like, we're the last ones still doing this well after we've seen that it doesn't work. Sweden's going on like 120 years.
Money is a funny thing. Yeah.
Hawaii, right, before it was taken over by the U.S., had single payer healthcare because of the indigenous culture that was there. That was part of the game, right? This is well into the modern age. They had already worked out, well, we all put in, and then if anybody needs to go to the hospital, then we've got it covered. And then when colonials took over, well,
became a for-profit venture.
Now if you're injured in a fishing accident, you're going to have to sell your land to Zuckerberg.
Yeah. No, it's all by design, and it's horrible, and most people don't want it. And we need to start. We need to start making politicians accountable for this at the ballot box.
Well, I'm so excited to see people like Bo, people like Christina, that are willing to finally take this to the forefront, right? To finally make it one of our core principles.
It's going to affect everybody. I mean, listen, the issue of Palestine is obviously extremely important, but trust me, if we don't fix this, we're going to start worrying about, if we can even, but we're going to start worrying about what we leave behind for our kids other than debt, because the only way out of the web of American healthcare is to be lucky enough to die fast.
And I think it's a good segue in just when you look at both what it's costing us in people being sick, what it's costing us on the drain. Like, it's not like being medically bankrupt just affects that family. Like, that really does destroy an entire community, right? Housing markets, all of those things are affected by it. It's a good segue into Palestine in that, look, if we weren't spending $19-20 billion every 3 months for nightmare proxy wars around the world, we could be spending on things like healthcare. Yep. Right? Like, we have to go and talk about Palestine, but it's one of those things where, look, if you have to break it down into where we should be spending our money, we've got all of the war we need. Right? We should be spending that money on our own communities. It's why places like China are killing us. Not because they're starting wars. They're starting none, right? They're not spending on that shit. Right? They're building bigger cities, faster train lines. They've got Medicare for all. We could have all of those things, but we're literally spending all of our money on proxy wars and trying to keep a weird imperial control of the world. We've convinced ourselves we own the ocean all the way over to China.
Yeah, and that's why it's disgusting to hear that, oh, well, they're sinking tanker ships outside of Yemen. And it's like, okay, why is that the U.S. Navy's problem?
They're sinking tanker ships across Yemen because it's the most lucrative waterway on the planet. Why is Yemen the poorest country on the planet? If it was anywhere else, if I want to move a ship across Europe, I got to stop on every single place, pay port fees, pay taxes, right? If I want to move something from Germany from America to Italy, from Germany, I don't get to just go around France if I don't feel like paying taxes. That's illegal. But we've made this waterway that you get to use for free that you would not allow another country to do, right? You don't get to use American waterways for free. You got to stop at New York and New Jersey and LA, right? In Houston. You don't get to just float around the U.S. without paying taxes. But yet we move the more items through that little waterway and pay none of the people anything. One of the reasons our cities do so great on those ports is because they're bringing in the taxes from all of that shipping. We do the same thing in Somalia. And then if the starving people blow up the shit that we should be paying them for, right, we get all bent out of shape.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get my Amazon packages from products made by children in China.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. You need to decide what's more important, your Amazon packages and this and that, or not going broke when you get sick.
Yeah. The choice, I feel, is completely and utterly clear, but our like outrage over our free use waterways across Yemen and Somalia, that makes no sense to me, because it doesn't fly anywhere else in the world unless you're the third world.
Well, it makes sense to the wealthiest people in this country because they're the only ones who profit from having that access.
Yeah, when you look at it and you're like, oh, well, why is it cheaper to go across here than to go through? Well, because if I have to go there, I got to pay every single one of those countries taxes.
Yep.
So it is like it's a weird imperialism that we try to put it in like a box, right? That each 100 years that we face this imperialist nightmare, that it's going to be identical. And they like to argue when it's not. Well, this isn't exactly like the East India Company. This isn't exactly like, well, no, it's not. It's definitely different, but it's still imperialism. You woke up one morning and decided that you control the world. Right. In the same way that England woke up one morning and convinced themselves that they actually control India. Yeah. India is actually part of Great Britain. They convinced themselves of that.
Yeah, that's true.
And I feel like we're kind of in that same place where we've convinced ourselves that we control places that we really don't. And there's only 250 million of us.
Well, that's about 330. I only know that because of the healthcare numbers, and because another one of my big issues is the expansion of Congress. So I have to know what the population is compared to what it was. Why we still have 400.
Elon Musk is scared. He's really worried about our population growth for some reason, and I don't see it. I'm fine with America. 300,000 is fine. It's not an issue unless you're trying to control billions of people. That's where it starts becoming doesn't work out. As long as you're fine being 350 million. Or 330 million, and your power is in access to the American consumer, right? That's where our power comes from, not militarily. Is that if you do what we like and you have the rules that we like, LGBT, whatever, you get access to the American consumer, one of the most lucrative buying blocks on the planet. And if you don't, then you don't get that access. But we've changed it into, well, if you don't, now we get to bomb you. And that's where it starts getting weird.
Well, we make good excuses to bomb them too. It's never the real reason.
As the candidates, I kind of want to get you guys' views on the strike on our brothers and sisters at the kitchen. Like, what is going on? How do you guys feel about it? I know we're going to go into some technical information, but I mean, this seems to be some sort of turning point. There doesn't seem to be a lot of excuses that people are buying, and I kind of want to know how you guys feel about it.
It was a choice. It was definitely not an accident. But we've had how many journalists and UN workers and Americans targeted and killed, and yet they continually sweep it under the rug. So my question is, why don't we have any politicians that currently care for the Americans the way that they're so obsessed with Israel? So I think that our elected failures in office really do need to address that. So that would be my response, because it's like every day they just kill innocent people. So it's like another thing that they do what they want. They don't have any remorse or morals, and we just hand them weapons and say it's a free-for-all. And now we have some people going out there and saying these babies aren't even as innocent. Don't presume these children and babies are innocent. And it's really sickening that. But then it also raises the question, what else have they done with babies? And you think about the people on the Epstein list, that they've already demoralized babies, and how many years have they demoralized children and babies, and what else have there's more questions. But these people do need to get out of office. and it's just pretty sick. But it's not surprising. I'd like to see them actually do something good for once, not to do the same barbaric behaviors that they're doing.
So
it's
if, and I'll kind of open it up to both of you. If you were in office right now, snap your fingers and you're a sitting senator, what would be your first step in response to this strike?
Okay. To condemn everything and probably call out and say that Biden needs to be arrested and removed from office, and same with everyone else that is enabling the killings of innocent people.
So start some impeachment inquiries and things along those lines. Bo, what would be your first step if tomorrow you woke up and you were in office?
Well, as a congressman, I mean, people need to remember, I would be one of 435. There are some very good, loud voices in the Congress right now that obviously are opposed to what happened, whether it be this bombing, go back 20 years, the murder of Rachel Corrie, go back beyond that. I mean, it happens over and over and over. Obviously, I would be a strong proponent for cutting off funding. I would, I don't know really what I could do as a single congressman. One thing I would like to do, and I wish our politicians would do this, is I would like to start a dialogue with Hamas. I mean, completely condemning aside, let's not forget in 2007, these people were elected. The people in Gaza didn't trust the PLO anymore and elected Hamas. And it seems that the day that happened, we cut off dialogue with Gaza. You can't do that. I would want to open a dialogue with them. I would want to take a trip to the occupied territories and to Israel. And I would bring people of both sides with me, and let's figure this out. I mean, if we're being lied to by one side or the other, or both, let's find out. Let's have a dialogue with the people that we claim to hate and want to kill and want to bomb and want to kill their kids. I mean, if we don't have a dialogue with that side, and I got to trust Tucker Carlson or Rachel Maddow on how these people are, we're in big trouble.
Well, and I think you make a good point in that we've spent roughly 50 years.
75, right? If we're talking about invading Palestine?
Not just Palestine, but North Korea, Iran, these countries that we're spending trillions of dollars and tell our citizens that we are moments from going to apocalyptic, world-ending nuclear war with, but then we have dialogue with them in the way that like 14-year-old teenagers do. That we will only talk to you through a third person. We can't actually have direct contact with you, but we don't know what's going on, who to talk to. But then we tell our people that at any moment we are going to have to go to complete and utter nuclear war with these guys, and you don't even know who they are. And in some cases, like in Korea, we've been at war with Korea for so long we forgot why we even went to war with Korea.
Arya.
Right, like the reasons have now evolved farther and farther, and it wasn't even Korea that split into two parts. Us and China split Korea in two, or us and Russia split Korea.
Yeah, I believe it was the Soviet Union that had more to do with that.
Like us and Russia split, and then we've like refused to have just basic. How do you ever expect this to ever get fixed if again you negotiate like 14-year-olds at high school? Well, I'm not talking to you.
I don't believe
that personally.
I'm going to go tell Amber that I don't like you. Right? Where you can't even just look like have an actual. I'm not giving any like at least. Ugh.
Maybe we
Trump is the worst, but it didn't take a lot to go from not talking to somebody and negotiating like a child to at least making the PR equivalent of moving towards peace.
It's by design. I'm sure that they want to black out the other side because they want to make them look like these horrible monsters. They want us to be afraid of them. And if we start talking to them like human beings and having a dialogue, it's going to be hard to sell that bill of sale. So, it's by design.
Well, there are people having the dialogue. The problem is what's being advertised by media and our government is the existence of Palestinians is anti-Semitic in itself. And that is the problem.
Yep. Which is crazy
But,
because Arabs are.
I mean, are we really stretching the definition of Semitic at that point then? Like, and I don't know what to say when somebody. Most of the people in the Middle East in that area are Semitic people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you're like, I think they mean it like any criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic is what they're saying. In the same way, I mean, things move way faster in 2024 than they did 20 years ago because we went through all of these growing pains after 9/11 as well. Right? Remember when we tried to like shoot the Dixie Chicks into the sun for saying that the war in Iraq was wrong? You remember that?
Sure
like
do.
They are in a very, very anything like any person that says, well, I mean, George Bush is a war criminal. That was enough to almost get you killed in America after 9/11.
And it feels like we're just starting from level 0 or ground 1 again.
Well, I mean, I think that's what makes some of this conversation so hard is it's like having a conversation with a younger version of yourself, with a young man that that you see some of yourself in, and you want to sit them down and be like, look, I know you're angry. I know what's going on. I know what you're going through, right? But this is not the way. And they're still busy again, like a small child, they're in that sort of that teenager anger, and you want to say, God, we've already been through this. I'm telling you, it's not going to work out the way that you think it does.
Like they have no emotional regulation whatsoever because their frontal lobe isn't fully developed yet.
Yes.
I mean, exactly. And we had to learn those things. I joined the military, right? Like I bought into it.
But I do want to rewind a little bit and back to New Jersey because this is very huge for what's happening in Israel. And New Jersey is the heart of everything. With the more that I'm learning and the more that's being exposed is so there's been calls for Netanyahu to resign. There's massive protests out in Israel, and then Dan Iluz is a mini Netanyahu and a protege of him. He has been to New Jersey, and he will be coming back to New Jersey on Sunday, April 14th, to speak and talk about what's going on currently in Israel and to continue this, and to continue promoting pro-Israel and anti-Palestinian and saying it's okay what's happening. And currently, even demonstrators today stormed a live viewing on air and demanded the overthrow of the Israeli government. So the left is doing everything that they can to dismantle what's going on in Israel. But it keeps getting connected in New Jersey because in New Jersey, this was the origin of our illegal land sales. We're colonizing and we're destroying the lands and we're selling lands that are stolen in New Jersey. And then the other Jeff from Kentucky is here. And
hold on, sorry. There we go.
So engrossed in Christina's words.
We got a whole crew.
Yeah, more candidates.
We've got one more. Hold on. Ariel, we've got, and then Jeff. If you guys want to give us a quick, update on your campaigns and what's going on, and then we can kind of get back to the conversation.
Yeah,
sure.
You can go ahead first if you want, Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have Jeff go first in case the internet.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm running as a Democrat in Kentucky's 3rd Congressional District, which is Louisville. I live in Lexington and in District 6, but I decided this place is locked up. The Kentucky Democratic Party hates me. They actually work for my opponents.
And we must have found a good Democrat. If the Kentucky Democratic Party hates you, then you're probably good people.
Yeah, thanks. I agree. Anyway, so Shauna Rudd is running in Lexington and surrounding counties, and she's wonderful. And she has a little different style than I do. I'm more confrontational after, I don't know how many years, 10 years
She
of
said
running
she's
and
revving up. She's
being,
revving up.
what? What?
She said she's revving up. She's
She's
staying
revving
chill
up?
right now, but soon she's going to start going full bore. That's what she said.
Well,
Good. I can't wait to see that.
she's same here, but she's in a really good position. There are 5 Democrats running in Lexington, District 6, and I think she's right now kind of the front runner.
Yeah.
And so I'm really impressed. Anyway, in Louisville, I have been focused on trying to get Morgan McGarvey, the establishment pro-war, pro-Zionist, pro-genocide establishment Democrat, to debate. And there are 3, myself, McGarvey, and a local Louisville guy who's never run for office before. So we set up this debate at the Louisville Public Library last Saturday, March 30th. And, invited McGarvey about 100 times and invited everybody. And we tried to live stream it on Facebook. And of course, he didn't show up, but we had a really good conversation. About half of it got recorded. And all I was asking the Louisville Democratic Party to do is to simply say, we are going to co-sponsor this debate. And I thought that would add to the pressure for him to show up. And I started asking them to do this in like late February, and they just refused. They're not going to sponsor it. It wouldn't have cost them any effort, any money, any work.
Well, I mean, why do you think that the Democratic Party is so against debates at the moment? Because I mean, this has became like this is a pattern. Why are they so against the debates? It used to be something that was one of the Democrats' strong points.
They don't want to lose the debate.
They have weak platforms. Their platforms have gotten weaker and weaker and more watered down over the years, and I'm only.
And they know it.
And all they do is lie every single election. So if they debate, the lies come out, because we're going to call them out. If the debater, if the host isn't calling them out, we're going to be like, hey, wait a second. That's a lie. Let me tell you what I'm going to do, because I'm going to speak the truth. So
I mean, I think it's a part of our system that people really enjoy. Like they feel involved in it. Like the debate part of it is where you get to see your candidates slug it out. That's kind of what we showed up for. My ideas versus your ideas. And taking that away, I think
people want to get a feel and get a little knowledge of who they're being asked to vote for.
Yeah.
And the Democrats, both and Republicans also, refuse to debate if they're the incumbent, if they're the establishment, and they got a ton of money in their campaign account. So they just don't do it. So anyway, I have had a federal lawsuit going for the last, about, I don't know, since January, let's say. And of last year, since like April of last year. Originally, I was suing Governor Andy Beshear, Democrat, but in September 2023, I added a bunch of defendants. So I'm suing the Kentucky Democratic Party, the Fayette County Democratic Party, where I live, the Andy Beshear, the original defendant, Andy Barr, Shauna's opponent, Republican opponent, the Republican Party of Kentucky, for their election fraud in 2020 when I was a Republican. I
Get them
tried
all,
it.
Jeff. Get them all.
Yeah. And who else? KET, Kentucky Educational Television, because they have a policy, or to get onto their stage, you have to have raised $50,000, raised or spent.
I think it's even higher for Christina, like in New Jersey.
750,000, they told me.
How much?
Almost
Oh
$1
my
million.
God.
750,000.
To-
Almost
So
$1 million to walk
What?
across
Yep.
the stage.
Welcome to New Jersey.
Just so they can lose the debate, because Andy Kim is scared of me and he's going to lose the Senate seat. The only serious candidates are going to be me, and maybe there's only one. And I told Bo, if that one Republican wins, we would be the only two serious candidates. Either way, Andy Kim would get mopped on the floor.
But
We need to raise $700,000. Let's go. If
To
you
do
haven't
what?
shared this,
You-
if you haven't shared this link out to your
Yes.
to on political pages, Green Party pages, like that's insane. And when we get our guys on stage, they will destroy the other side.
But that's
I will
right. But
say
is
that
it
with-
is it a
with-
public television station? What kind of station set a $750,000?
It would be between it's both the duopoly in New Jersey that host it. So unless we get like a really mega person that's going to host a debate that says we'll host it, and they'll pay, like, because you're going to have to make a donation to News 12 and other places to get them to come out, or it's got to be like a famous name to lure them out. Someone's going to have to put it together. Otherwise, $750,000.
But
the
even
question,
they did
the
like,
question
years
I'm
ago.
asking, I'm trying to find out: is it a public TV station or is it private corporation?
No, it's public. So
public. Okay.
yeah.
So they're not allowed to do that. You should sue them.
Yeah, no, okay.
Right.
So this is New Jersey. The duopoly is a monopoly, and everything public is run by corporations.
Yeah, you can
I know.
own Elmo in New Jersey, apparently.
I know that's true
Yeah.
everywhere. They only
But-
call themselves public, but legally they're part of the state government.
Yep, but they're not. Yeah, so the news
So-
sources are going to be
All right.
hosting the debate.
So
That's
if
insane.
if I win this lawsuit, anyway,
Yeah.
let me finish up on that. I'm going to add Morgan McGarvey and the Louisville Democratic Party and make it 11 defendants instead of 9, based on their absolute refusal to even talk to me about debating. I'm going to add them to my election rigging lawsuit. And as far as I can tell, I have zero chance unless I get somewhere with this lawsuit. I'm not gonna raise anything this year. I'm not raising any money.
And Jill Stein, and I remember going to the Ralph Nader rally. They met all of the requirements, met all of the funding requirements, and they still were not allowed on the debate stage. They put police
I would have
outside
sued
and
them.
would not let us cross, even though they met all of the requirements. They just said, no, it's private property and you're trespassing.
Right. I'm not a lawyer, but I've sued the Democrats dozens of times since 2015. That was my first one. And every
Holding them
judge
accountable. You
in
got the receipt.
Kentucky is corrupt, and I'm just getting better and better at demolishing motions to dismiss. And so one of these days I'm going to win one. That's my report.
Excellent. Aria, if you give us kind of a quick update, I know we're going to get back in. I kind of want to bridge the same questions that I had for other guests a little bit earlier, but just an update on your campaign and how everything's going.
Yeah, real quick. I went to the Land Day protest last weekend. Spent some time in between people talking, just trying to be as respectful as possible while I do this, but collecting ballot signatures so I can get onto the ballot without having to spend money. If I have to spend money, though, I only have to spend like $2,000, which is very doable. So either way, I'll end up on the ballot, but I like doing it this way because I can reach out to people and they can learn more about my campaign and know who I am, because I'm competing against a candidate who has $400,000 from AIPAC and has spent millions of dollars on her campaign already, Senator Cantwell. So very strong incumbent, even if she's splitting the vote with like 8 other Democrats running right now. I'm the only pro-Palestine candidate running, so I have that going for me, along with many other things that I'm far more progressive than anyone else that's running in this state. But other than that, I ended up getting a volunteer from that event. I got another connection, politically speaking, locally speaking. He's very connected with the Hispanic political advocacy groups around here. So I'm going to be teaming up with him, and he's also very connected to the Palestine movement. So hoping to get some traction with him. One thing that I did run into, though, is that I don't know if you guys have this for your ballot signatures, if you are gathering them at all. But generally, they have to validate your voter registration with your name, birthday, and address. And people are being really weird about giving me their address.
So yeah, when me and Bo we run into this, I just explain to people it's just for the capital, just to make sure you're a real person in New Jersey. All your information is kept private. We don't release anything.
Yeah, and I promise I don't care about your address. I'm not going to do anything with it.
Yeah. So that's what we say. And it's the truth. Like, we don't do anything with people's information, and it's just literally for the capital of New Jersey when they run the names, just to make sure the names match with the signatures.
It's just funny because, like, my current employer is Meta right now, so, like, I want to be like, and you're not worried about the Facebook app and Instagram app that's installed right now? Like, they literally just got caught selling information. Like,
yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Like Meta will sell your info to anyone. My favorite is with the one that they got in like real deal trouble. They went to like pretty much an information clearinghouse that, although it's not always like black market, it's like most of the time black market. And they got caught literally, not that they contacted Facebook, like nobody called them, contacted Meta and said, hey, we got some numbers. Meta contacted them and said, hey, we've got all this information we thought you might be interested in. Absolutely insane.
Promoting it.
Do any of the viewers have any questions right now for anyone of us?
I'm not sure what is going on with our comment section, because like we haven't been getting the comments the way that we should. And then when I go back, we've got a few hundred comments. We've got 70 people watching on Twitter alone at the moment. All of them have said something.
Yeah, this website's a little twitchy. I'm not surprised.
I've got a question for both you guys. And again, if our viewers are watching, number one, please share this out. To overwhelm the algorithm, we really do need your help to do that, right? And that's just, they can censor each one of us, but after it gets to a certain point, it just overwhelms it and the word gets out. And it doesn't matter which one of you answer first. You know, if you snapped your fingers and you were in office tomorrow, with everything that's going on in Palestine, with the strikes on the aid workers, what would be the first step that you would do? What would be the very first thing that you would do if you were in office today?
Sanctioning Israel. Sanctioning Israel.
Yes. Voting no, cutting off.
Also, yeah, cutting off all future aid indefinitely.
And I think I would also be proposing, but I would have already done this by now, proposing the Rebuild Palestine. I would have just kept bringing it up and being annoying about it.
And to clarify,
Jeff, I would introduce articles of impeachment against the current president, who happens to be a Democrat, Joe Biden, for his war crimes alone. Impeach the president is always my answer to every problem.
Yes. Yeah.
He's the guy in charge. Hey, look, if both of you were in office, we already have a first and a second for the articles of impeachment, and technically bipartisan support, right? We can use those words too, right?
Yeah.
Well, not only that, Biden is also putting every single American or citizen of this country in danger by doing what he's doing. Like, the entire world hates us because of the genocide. The entire world hates us because of our like, they're going, I feel like it's a matter of time when we're going to be attacked, and it's Biden's fault.
Well, these
And
things.
sanctioned.
No, it's not attacked, sanctioned.
Yeah.
We're going to be sanctioned somehow or another.
We're going, we're going to feel the repercussions
Russia that we can turn off sanctions. We can turn on and off sanctions with the snap of a finger. The credit industry that we just had to kick, that basically created BRICS. Right?
Yep.
We just had to kick them off. I mean, if there was nothing else that could be done, this was the most devastating strike that we could ever make to Russia non-militarily, and yet it had almost no effect. There already has been some laws, right? We've had laws on the books forever that say if you block U.S. aid going into a country, then we stop providing you with weapons. We stop providing you. Those were already in the books. They're just not. It's just not being enforced. I do think that the weapons sales. The Pentagon news briefing was asked about it. Like yesterday or today. And their response was that these are not, because we keep on saying, hey, how come we're not passing any of these weapon sales through Congress, but you are sending $19 billion in weapons every month? How does that work? And they said, well, these are actually weapons contracts that go back decades, right? We promised them weapons in the 80s and 90s, and now they're just getting them, and it makes
his reaction.
I'm so angry.
You're telling me you would have just kept sending South Africa more weapons because you signed something in the fucking 60s? What, you just keep sending fucking Nazi Germany?
And I don't even believe
weapons?
it because, when Terrence comes back, I don't even believe it because it's all new debt that they're creating to sell these weapons. And the U.S. breaks contracts and promises all the time. So for humanity and to save a child's life, you can't break a contract?
It just sounds like it makes this just not automated. It makes no, sorry guys, I mean, somebody in 1950 signed the paper. There's nothing I can do. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And Bo, if you want more background, because the national call for Gottslimer is because of what's happening in Palestine. He's a pro-Israel candidate who's gotten a lot of funding. So
can you guys name another country where you can put that country ahead of the American candidate?
I'm waiting for someone to ask me who I'm allied with, what country I'm allied with, and because my answer is going to be America.
For real, the one they're supposed to be representing.
I don't even think Fetterman knows where America is.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
I don't think he knows where his own
he's a senator in Israel.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a question from a reporter today about my endorsements. Who has endorsed me? And so I'm wondering, in the Ceasefire Coalition group, can we just say that everybody has endorsed everybody else?
I feel like we've already talked about that.
I think we did address it.
Okay, I didn't know you talked about it.
It might have just been some call or something, or maybe it was a bunch of text. But we basically have all agreed that.
I'm trying to get DSA to endorse the coalition.
Oh, that would be nice.
And I think because they can't endorse individual candidates, so I think they can endorse us as a group. And
That'd
then we're part of the coalition. So then technically it's like a backdoor endorsement.
We're technically endorsed.
Yeah, but they just can't name us. But they can name
the
DSA in Kentucky hates me too.
Well, it doesn't matter which DSA, because if any DSA endorses us, it's going to force the other DSA to hop on board. DSA will not fight with DSA.
All right.
Well, and it seems like in a lot of these organizations and a lot of these groups will have huge amount of supports on the grassroots level, right? The people that are, part of DSA absolutely support everything you're saying, but the 4 people at the top aren't with it, and that causes us all sorts of problems. I just think it's interesting that, 2 of the candidates are, that already walked away from the Democratic Party, and the other candidate is running as a Democrat, but swears the Democratic Party absolutely hates him. That seems like there's some serious problems in the Democratic Party.
For
Doesn't
sure.
seem like good people to me.
It's imploding. It was like their start date for implosion was slightly later than the GOP. That's it.
Yeah.
They started later. The GOP is never going to implode, but the Democratic Party, gets closer and closer every day.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the Republican Party had their civil war, and the far right won. The Democratic Party was supposed to be the big one. It never really happened, and the moderates just stifled the progressives, and here we are.
Okay.
And now we're building our own coalition. But it's also important to remember that a progressive Dem in some states, and that's why in the beginning I say it's not about the party, it's about the candidate, because us progressives are considered third parties in different states. So like Green Party.
In some of them, Arizona, they like the Democratic Party funded and fundraised for far right, pro Second Amendment, pro abortion candidates against progressives because they were worried about things like Medicare for all, legalization. Mm-hmm. Your donation to AgBlue went to go fund a far right candidate. And then they're going to come back and tell me that abortion is on the ballot. It's on the ballot because you keep on funding far right candidates.
I'm so mad. It's giving me a flashback to when I saw a video on TikTok of Senator Murray. She's another senator representing my state in Congress. And she was complaining about how we lost our abortion rights. And I was like, you have been in Congress my entire life, ma'am. Like, why didn't you codify Roe v. Wade?
You can go codify Roe v. Wade. Every 4 years, they use abortion rights as a fundraising tool, and then they get elected, and then they don't codify it, and they've done it over and over again. Look at Joe Biden's record on abortion rights. It's pretty much all of the talking points that the right is using right now.
Oh, wow.
And that's over 40 years. The reason we're fighting it, and it wasn't like it snuck up on us, like this was some sort of secret. The Republicans told you for 40 years that they were going to repeal Roe v. Wade, told you to your face, right? And it's in their ad. It's their number one talking point, and you acted surprised that they finally did it. If somebody calls you every single day and tells you that they're going to punch you in the face, right? And then one day you open your door and they punch you in the face, that's on you.
Exactly. No, I can't.
And then we have Biden. Yeah, Biden in the same breath. So now they're talking about abortion rights, but then in the same breath, they're saying it's also not important and I'm against it. Like, it's all publicly right in our faces. I personally believe that they have absolutely, positively no intent to pass to codify Roe v. Wade. Oh, they never will.
I really do feel they are just ramping this up for the election, or they would have done it already. Why was that not like top tier when you had the House, the Senate, and the presidency?
And also the Supreme Court. When we had the Supreme Court, this is the only time I'm mad at RGB because God rest her soul. She was great, but like Ruth Bader Ginsburg kind of messed us up like by staying on the bench for too long. If she had left earlier, a Democratic president could have appointed maybe not a psychopath to the seat.
And they're saying
we were going toward the right, the Dems at that time. So the way Obama, because that was Obama's presidency.
Yeah,
when she passed,
he got robbed of like two appointees, basically.
No, but he's not a left person. He was all about attacking Libya, and he even said abortion was low on the list for him.
And Syria.
Oh no, I know he's a warmonger, but I would have liked the abortion part.
Yeah, he would have appointed a far right or someone that lined up with a liberal belief. It would have never been a progressive SCOTUS.
Right.
It wouldn't have been a progressive judge. So they've already tainted it.
In 2022, June, they six Republicans on the SCOTUS overturned Roe versus Wade. In July, I started sending out a postcard that said "Impeach the Six." And my solution, which as far as I know, nobody's ever picked up on,
Get him, Jeff. Get him.
is get rid of all 6 of those partisan, anti-woman, woman hating, woman healthcare destroying, partisan hacks on the Supreme Court. We can have 3 Supreme Court justices for a while, and they can do the job, and just impeach them all, because they attacked every woman and girl in America for no reason except that they had the votes, raw political power.
Yep.
I agree, but like when our political people start breaking the law, impeachment is basically like firing them. So that's what we got to do.
Yeah, if I screw up at my job, I'm going to get fired, and I'm sure with you guys too. If you guys screw up at your job, you're going to get fired. How
Sometimes
can
you get fired
we be in
without screwing up
office
all the
and
time.
screw up royally?
None of us have ever, I mean, on some of these things, none of us have ever screwed up our job and accidentally killed 30,000 children.
Facts.
None of us.
Yeah.
No.
Like not even close.
I even got one.
Not even one.
To kind of get back to Palestine, I'd like to go over some of the technical information behind the strikes on the aid workers, on the kitchen workers.
Yeah.
Right now, the response from the IDF, from the Israeli politicians and propaganda networks, is that this was an accidental strike on 3 separate vehicles that were clearly marked in a green zone, that had called the IDF and got, given them their location and were given clearance to be there. Now, besides this being, in my mind, a obvious, they were doing really good work, as they always do. This was an obvious message to aid workers in Palestine.
That's
right? Bring the Palestinians food and we will fucking kill you. Right? That was that was my one for YouTube. I think I get 2 more F-bombs before they demonetize me. But
Oh no, we dropped him.
Oh, we lost him.
Oh, there he is.
There's only so much that I can go into real detail with on some of these issues. But after being in the Air Force, after being in the military, there are 2 jobs that you will very rarely accidentally kill anyone. It's almost impossible. And that is sniper and drone, right? And that's because when you're looking down the sniper scope, you get to see intimate details. You know exactly who you're shooting, what weight they are, what height they are, what the wind's going by, right? Absolutely every detail before you pull the trigger. How many teeth they have, right? Absolutely everything. You know when you pull the trigger whether that is a 10-year-old kid or a 50-year-old man, because you can count the hairs on his beard, right? Drones are a very similar situation, right? Not only going up to the vehicle, do you have, you know what I mean, beyond high definition video of it, right? You get 360-degree views. All of these vehicles were marked, right? Who's inside of them? You get to see the thermal output that the truck, so you can tell how thick the armor is. Absolutely everything. There are systems that will kick back what vehicle they are driving. Right? What their faces look like, absolutely everything. And then after that, and you've relayed all of that back to your command, about 10 to 30 people have to give you the okay to engage that target. Right? And in this case, they engaged the first target and then were given the exterminate order for 2 other targets, which means no survivors. Knowing that who was inside, what cars they were, where they were going, absolutely positively everything about them, there is no way that this drone strike, nor the 2 other strikes after it, right, were an accident. It's impossible.
Nope,
In the same way that you could say in a sniper event that I accidentally shot that child. You could have gotten, you can say I got bad information, but there ain't no accidentally about it. That's impossible.
Just like today, it's sort of similar, but unrelated. But the mindset, like, there was a kidnapping victim, a teenage girl who was kidnapped, and the police got the kidnappers. The young girl was terrified of the kidnappers, ran to the police, and they just
shot her.
they laid bullets in her to the point where they were screaming, "Stop shooting her!" So it's to say it was done on purpose. They wanted to purposely kill her. So it makes me think, what's the connection to the kidnapper that these police have? Like, were they like it was on purpose, or they were trying to get rid of evidence, or like they were just need to be fired and go to prison? But you can't even. Yeah.
I don't know how much of a connection. You know, there were some Palestinians that had came out with white flags out of the hospital.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, you're innocent and you're just getting gunned down.
I think there were, although chances are they're probably trained in the same places. I think chances are what happened to that girl is this is America, and when our police get scared, they fill everything they can with holes, reload, and then fire again. Right? That has to do with how our police are trained. That has to do with people being scared. That has to do with groupthink in extreme situations. You know, you also see those kind of things, situations like that in the military where everybody's firing and nobody knows what we're firing at.
Yeah.
Right? You were firing because you were scared, because he was scared, because he was scared. And you end up doing something like happened to this young woman where you guys being terrified of the civilian community caused you to murder her, and being too stupid to, to stop pulling the trigger caused this situation. Where in Palestine, and granted, she could have, I understand what you're saying too. In the reason that child trafficking and some of these child molestation cases and some of these organizations thrive for so long is they are intricately connected to the police departments. Right, whether it's on the border, they're intricately connected to immigration officers. That's how all of the drugs and people get into our country. Right, that's how that system works. So I understand where you were going with that. Totally could be, but most likely just itchy trigger fingers. In comparison to things we're seeing in Israel are deliberate. Like the mafia sending a message.
Yeah.
I was just describing it to my mother earlier today, and I was like, this is honestly, and I don't say this lightly, this is worse than Nazi kind of stuff, because Nazis, all as terrible as they were not murdering press members and famine workers and anyone else providing aid. They weren't going out of their way to murder people who were providing aid or anything like that. Like, I mean, obviously, if you were sheltering Jewish people, it was a problem.
How the world viewed aid for soldiers in World War II and World War I compared to how we view it now, where you would have hospitals that had American soldiers in German hospitals because that's what we did. You're a wounded soldier, we take care of all wounded soldiers. You're a wounded civilian, we take care of all wounded civilians. Exactly. Compared to how much it's changed now. Now, that didn't always happen, right? But how you see it's changed now, where that's not even an option. Right? That's not even in our mindset in thinking of it. Some of the things that you're seeing, I really do. And it worked in this situation. The aid is pulled out. It's too dangerous. But that was kind of the point. Like the mafia, they sent a message.
No doubt.
Right. And I do see a lot of the things that they're doing are that kind of fear tactic, terrorism, the criminal activity all kind of looks about the same, right? You needed to do extreme violence to send someone a message. That's what all criminals do.
Intimidation.
Yeah, that's part of the game. It shouldn't be. Where I start having more and more problems is that you keep on doing it with U.S. munitions, with U.S. money.
That's right.
Right? You should definitely be held for war crimes. You should definitely be held accountable for the shit that you're doing. But I'm held accountable for it to be done with my shit. If I leave my firearm, right, or give it to somebody and they shoot up a building, right, a restaurant, I'm in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Right? If I helped anyone the way that we are helping these criminals, you're in trouble too, right? I'm worried about my soul.
That's what bothers me the most. It's not even a double standard. It's like a million times standard.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I want us to wrap up because it's 9 p.m. and I do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know it goes fast. That's why, like.
Wow. I didn't even, this time I didn't.
I know.
Because we had started a little
guys,
late.
I'm sorry I was in my phone, but I think I'm getting closer to the DSA. They're interested in more information, so I'm going to give it to them tomorrow.
And that's cool. If they can't endorse a specific candidate and they just want to endorse the idea of a coalition for ceasefire, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I think that's the kind of bipartisan. There's things that you can. That's my problem, right? Why does our bipartisanship always have to do with fascism and not helping each other? I'm fine.
That's why in the beginning.
Fascism.
Yeah, that's why in the beginning.
Frozen.
She was so solid.
Oh, we're getting too powerful. They're shutting us down.
No.
I found out about a great candidate today. It is Jen Perlman, who's running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz in the Democratic primary in Florida. Is she in the coalition?
She's another one.
No.
How is she not in prison? How is Debbie not, like, when we talk about election rigging,
but
right?
She's,
I mean, real election rigging right in front of you.
Payday loan, Debbie.
Jen Perlman, I just sent her $25 in order to attend a Zoom she's having tomorrow night, 8:00 Eastern time. She's doing a fundraiser on Zoom. So look up Jen Perlman for Congress. If we could get rid of Wasserman Schultz, that would be incredible.
Huge.
I'm gonna donate to get rid of Debbie. You had me at the beginning. Like, she is the absolute worst. If you want, like, corruption in a person, it's Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
I'm just gonna throw up there. Her and Josh Gottheimer are the same person. They're always arm in arm together.
Same coin.
Yeah.
It's not even the different sides. They're the exact same side of the coin.
They might be the same person.
Oh, it's too close for comfort. If you were just looking at policy and had your back turned, you could not tell the difference. Bo, if you want to give out your website, fundraising links, all of that stuff before we close out here, and then we'll kind of go around the table and get Christina back in as well.
I would love to do that. So my website is www.bo4congressnj.com. Website is still under construction. It should be up fully within a couple of weeks. You could also find me on Twitter, which is at Bo4Congress, and Instagram the same, Bo4Congress. And if we're doing this again next week, I'll have more.
Well, and we do a Wednesday and Friday show, so we'll do it again on Friday. The Friday show is pretty much open topic, where this one is just, Palestine, ceasefire, and Middle East. Supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I threw us off the track.
Good at it, but the Friday show is much more open, so we can really dig down on Medicare for all, on some policy issues, on things like that. Where this one is Coalition for Ceasefire, peace talks. We kind of try to stay focused a little bit on those subjects.
Yep, my fault.
Same time on Friday, or?
Oh yeah, no, you go ahead, please.
Okay, well, is the live stream on Fridays at the same time?
Yeah, they're both 7 o'clock Eastern time, and we're gonna try to keep that schedule. We might add a little bit for TikTok and some other ones, but it'll be on a different day or after this show.
That makes sense. Okay, cool. Yeah, I may as well go while I'm talking. My website is right here. It is ariaforsenate2024.com. So please visit. Definitely, if you can't donate, I actually need volunteers more than donations. So feel free to send me a message at my little contact form. Thank you.
And you're running against Cantwell, correct?
Yes, running against Senator Cantwell in Washington State for U.S. Senate.
Awesome.
Please.
I would take Murray down if she were up for election, because I honestly hate Murray more, but I hate them both.
And Jeff, I know you've given out some information, but if you want to give out everybody your website and fundraising and all of that.
Yeah. Young for Kentucky is the website, YOUNG4KY.com. And Act Blue link is at the bottom of the website. And thanks for facilitating.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like, I promised ages ago, right, that if I was ever in a position, right, to use my platform to help people, I would, right? And I have kept that promise as far as humanly possible, right? So it's great in that, you know, we've got some big companies, we've got some big people that censor us, that are trying to keep the truth out, that are trying to keep our world from becoming a better place. And if I can facilitate the conversation, if I can help get the word out, I am 100% down. So no, thank you guys for joining me and for taking the step. It's not easy. I've been a campaign manager. I've worked for several other campaigns. You guys probably have seen some of my work, but it's a hard run, right? You guys are fighting some dragons, some hydras, right? You are fighting some of the worst, entrenched evil. So, you know what I mean? If I can help in that battle, I'm down.
Awesome.
To everybody that's watching, thank you. Please share this out, like, share, and support the revolution. And we'll see you.